everybody, and welcome to this afternoon's webinar on the University of Liverpool's Postgraduate Certificate Academic Practice Programme. My name is Ben Piper and I work in the marketing team. I'm going to hand over shortly to Dr. Susan Bolt, who will be presenting today's webinar, joined by Stephen Livesey, our Director of Learning Technology, and Joe Shaw from our admissions team. The session is being recorded, and the recording will be shared with everybody who registered for this event and later published on our YouTube account and shared with you as a recording. So for those who haven't attended a Zoom webinar before, you can ask questions during the session by clicking on the Q&A button towards the bottom of your screen if you're on a desktop computer, and you can type in your question there. You can also use the chat feature to ask questions too. So we'd love to see those questions coming in as we go through the session. We'll go through them and answer all of those at the end, but do feel free to ask your questions as we go along. So I'm now going to hand you over to Susan and start the session. So Susan, over to you. Thank you.
Hello and welcome everybody to this webinar. First off, we're going to go through the agenda. So during this webinar, what you'll hear about is about the University of Liverpool, about the program, the Postgraduate Certificate Academic Practice or PGCERT or PGCAP, the virtual learning environment, the admissions and enrolment process, and at the end we'll have an opportunity for any questions that you've popped into the chat function as we go through. Okay, so just a little bit about the University of Liverpool, which is an internationally renowned Russell Group university, which is ranked in the top 1% of universities worldwide. It was the original red brick university established in 1881 and a founding member of the Russell Group of universities. The university is associated with 9 Nobel Prize winners and is ranked in the top 200 universities worldwide. The University of Liverpool has 33,000 students overall, with 10,000 online students and 8,000 international students and 6,000 staff members. So why should you choose the PGCAP? Well, in short, the PGCAP will enable you to develop your teaching and enhance your career. The PGCAP is the first program accredited by Advance HE for Fellowship of the Higher Education Academy to be offered fully online to a global market through Liverpool Online in partnership with Kaplan Open Learning. The high quality course content is offered flexibly online through synchronous and asynchronous resources and activities that embed the Liverpool hallmarks of research-connected teaching, active learning, and authentic assessment. Students will engage with global perspectives on higher education through the materials presented in the course and through student participation. Students are encouraged to share perspectives on higher education and relevant resources, enabling peer learning and fostering a community of practice. Students can complete the course in under a year, and students graduating from this prestigious university on this program will simultaneously gain 2 internationally recognised awards: the Postgraduate Certificate Academic Practice, which is a master's level teaching qualification, and professional recognition as Fellows of the Higher Education Academy. Overall, the 10-month 60-credit course is comprised of 600 learning hours, which translates to about 18 learning hours per week, of which 4 to 5 hours of structured coursework and the remainder is self-directed and workplace learning. The course commences with a 2-week induction, which will set students up for success in the course. The induction familiarises students with the virtual learning environment, how to access the resources available to students, study skills, and the requirements of the program. The requirements of fellowship, as that outlined in Descriptor 2 of the Professional Standards Framework, will be explained to students in the induction. Descriptor 2 requires students to demonstrate a broad understanding of effective approaches to teaching and learning as contributions to high-quality student learning. One of the admissions requirements is that students are currently teaching in higher education jobs that enable them to demonstrate Descriptor 2. You don't have to have prior experience teaching in higher education, but you do need to have a job in higher education in which you design and plan learning activities and or programs of study, teach and or support learning, assess and give feedback to learners, develop effective learning environments and approaches to student support and guidance, and engage in continuing professional development in subjects or disciplines and their pedagogy, incorporating research, scholarship, and the evaluation of professional practices. You will also need to demonstrate core knowledge and professional values relevant to higher education. During the induction, students will be asked to reflect on how their current practice aligns with the requirements of fellowship to prepare and enable them to proceed to the first module. One of the requirements of fellowship is that by the end of the course, students will need to provide 2 references that verify their teaching aligns with Descriptor 2 of the Professional Standards Framework. As the admissions process is designed to only enable eligible students to register, we expect that most students will be able to show how their current practice aligns with the requirements of fellowship. Students whose current practice does not align with the requirements of fellowship will not be able to proceed with the program. The course has 4 8-week, 15-credit modules. The first module is called Contemporary Approaches to Teaching. In this module, students will learn about theories of learning and develop their own philosophy of teaching. The second module is called Alternative Approaches to Supporting Learning. In this module, students will learn about curriculum frameworks, policies, and theories, and students will be encouraged to contribute similar resources from their own institutions. Students will engage in peer learning to develop learning activities, participate in a professional conversation, and design authentic assessments relevant to their own situations. The third module is called Enhancing Teaching and Learning. In this module, students will learn about inclusive practice and consider several methods for evaluating their teaching. Students will take a situational analysis of their own practice and use the findings to develop an action plan to enhance their teaching. The fourth module is called Extending Your Higher Education Career in a Global Context. In this module, students will develop a critical awareness of the trends of higher education and explore opportunities for continuous professional development to enhance their higher education careers. Students will create an elevator pitch and a poster to communicate their higher education experience and plans for future development. So, about skills and career development. This course enables students to gain teaching qualifications and professional recognition as Fellows of the Higher Education Academy. Students will develop relevant skills and the Liverpool graduate attributes. For example, students will develop confidence by applying their academic knowledge, skills, and understandings in a range of familiar and unfamiliar settings. Confident graduates are engaged, curious, proactive, and resilient. Students will develop digital adeptness to connect, collaborate, and communicate effectively in academic, professional, and other contexts. As global citizens, graduates will develop skills to see themselves as part of a community at every level, from local to global, and recognise that this comes with responsibilities based on equality, respect, and valuing diversity. Through this course, students will be able to build professional networks and communities of practice with peers and the broader higher education community. The course has been designed to be challenging and engaging. It enables students to be active learners and engage in authentic assessments to develop their higher education careers. I will now hand over to Stephen Livesey, who will tell you about the virtual learning environment.
Thanks, Sue. For this part of the presentation, I'm actually going to share my screen. So just give me a second while I set this up. Okay, hopefully you can see see my desktop there, see the screen. Okay, so thanks for your time this afternoon, everybody. My name is Stephen Livesey. I'm the Director of Learning Technology. And in this part of the session, what we'd like to do is just show you the learning platform from the student's perspective. So everything you see here is from the perspective of a demo student. And hopefully it'll just give you an idea of what it's like to study in this online environment through this particular program. So I'll talk a little bit about the platform, and then I'll actually go into one of our modules and show you how we present content to students. So the first thing to note is it's a one central platform to access everything you'll need to complete your program. So here you'll access your resources, your lecturecast materials, your reading materials, assessments, grades, feedback, everything from one central place. Now we do plug in other platforms along the way to provide different resources, but we use the same credentials to access all those. So a really good example is the University of Liverpool online library, which has hundreds of thousands of resources for students to work through. You'll use the same credentials to access the library as you do the VLE and the learning platform. So hopefully it's a nice seamless experience for students to get to those resources that you really need to access. Also, everything you see here is responsive. So if you access on your mobile phone or the tablet, the screen will resize depending on what device you're looking at, and you can access these resources on the go. Before I move into looking at one of the modules, the other thing to mention is throughout your program of study, there's a whole support channel available to you. So not just academic support within a taught module, and I'll go into that when I look at a module in a moment, but we also have a student services department. And the role of the student services department is really to help you through your program. So there's a study skills team, there's a student support team, and there's a welfare support team, and their role really is to help you through the program. Now you can access those teams through the phone or via email, or as you notice as I work through the platform, you'll see we've got a little support tab in the bottom right hand corner. And here I could search for all sorts of different advice and support. So if I wanted to speak to the student support team, I can type support. This will bring up a little article about the student support team, and here also are their contact details. So this is a really nice way of you accessing support directly through the platform. You can also use this little tab for live chat through the platform. So if you have a question about a particular page, perhaps you're looking for a particular policy, you're not sure when a deadline might be, you actually chat directly with your support, with the student support team directly through the VLE, which is really, really nice. Okay, so first of all, I'll click get started, and this will take me to my student dashboard. Now, every student has their own personalized dashboard. This will be relevant to your program of study. I'm logged in here as demo student, so this particular student's tied to all sorts of things. But for this example, we're going to go into this demo module here. But as a real student, you'd also see any deadlines that are relevant to your program in the calendar block. So here, any milestones within your taught modules, this could be assessment deadlines, it could be seminars, are all displayed to you here in your calendar and timeline. You can also export that calendar to your own personal calendars if you wanted to sync it with your Gmail or Outlook or whatever. So from the dashboard, I've got access to my taught modules, and as Sue mentioned in her presentation, before you actually go into a taught module, there's also a 2-week induction. I'm not going to go into this in this demo, but before you go into a module, there's a 2-week induction module, and in there you'll have a space to learn about how to use the platform, some refresher skills on study skills, some information about the program as a whole. So when you do start that first taught module, the idea is that you're ready and prepared for a taught module which has credit. So I'll go into one of those modules now. So I'll click on the tab here. And the first page is the module homepage. And this example is a short video. I'm just going to mute the audio there, but there's a voiceover going over the back here. And this is just an introduction to the module. So, what are the module aims? What do students expect in this first particular module? So we used a short video to introduce the module. We try and keep the design of the learning platform really simple and clear for students to follow. So although you won't notice it in this demonstration, each module follows a similar structure. So for example, it's the small things really. For example, the navigation is always in the same place. The lecturer office is always in the same place, the schedule and so on. And it just the idea being that you become familiar with how to use the learning platform. So as you move from one module to the next, it should be quite seamless and comfortable for students. So I'll work through some of these key pages here, and then I'll go into a week of study to show you what some of the content looks like. So the first page we'll look at is a lecturer office. Oh, apologies, there should be a lecturer picture there, but this is a demo module. But if you imagine there's a lecturer office here and a picture of your lecturer, and the lecturer's role within a taught module is to support any academic queries you might have throughout that module. So, you know, you might have questions about the reading materials, you might have questions about the assessment, and they're the point of contact for you to go to for any of those types of queries. If it's about the program as a whole, or perhaps you know, the program schedule, maybe you need to make a payment, or any kind of pastoral support, you go to the student support team. But academic support is there for you by a dedicated lecturer within the module. And here you'd also have details of their biography and different channels to get in touch with that lecturer. The next page down is the module resources page. Now, in this section, really, these are resources that aren't particularly tied to a week of study, but might help throughout the entire module. So, for example, we have the reading list for the entire module here, just in one click, and that'll take me to the library for the entire reading list. But each week we break that up, and I'll show you that in a second. In module resources, we have the grading criteria. So you can access information about how the assessments are graded. And we also link to a passport module and a record of achievement, and then some information about the UK PSF, which is relevant to this particular program. So these resources are just, you know, a couple of clicks away, might not tie to a particular unit or week of study, but are easily accessible for you. And again, we'll be in the same place in each particular module. Now, the module does have a schedule. So we have a page here with a timetable on, and the timetable just shows you some of those key dates that are important throughout the module. So in this example, we have formative activity with a deadline at the end of week 3 and week 4. We have a really important deadline at the end of the module, which is the summative assessment. In this module, that assessment point is at the end of week 8, and the assessment opens in week 5. In week 8, you would see more details about what to expect for that assignment and where to submit it. But these dates are really key for you to keep track and keep on top of the schedule of the module. And again, these are the dates that will pull through to your personalized calendar in your personal dashboard as well. So we really try and make them as prominent as possible, so you know what you need to be doing and when, which is really important. The other schedule that's used in this module is a schedule of live seminars. So here we have a timetable with some dates and times, seminar topics, and then for each seminar there are some readings or a case study that students should look at before they attend the session. Now, attendance is optional. If you can't attend one of these sessions, they're all recorded, so you can always catch up later if you weren't able to attend the live session. The recording will be made available almost immediately after the live session. It's normally an hour or two after the live session, so you'll have access to that. Or you might want to watch it back later on if you wanted to. So there's different ways in which you can engage with those seminars. Okay, so finally, I'll go into a week of study. This is the core content, really. So this is a 15-credit module, and it's split up over 8 weeks of study. And each week has a particular topic and a series of activities and resources for students to work through. And again, we try and make this really nice and clean and simple for students to follow. So I can clearly see I'm in week 1, and week 1 has a topic. It has some introductory text and some learning outcomes for the week. But as I scroll down the page, you'll also see that now I have some activities to complete. The first activity is a lecturecast. So if I click on the title of the lecturecast there, this will load up the content. And the lecturecast is, you could almost think of lecturecast as being an online version of a traditional lecture, if you like. Now this is actually saved where I'm up to, but I'll just go back a step to the home page if I was to open it for the first time. And what we've done is, with a traditional lecture, we've broken that presentation up into smaller pieces of content. And then the idea being that we present that content in different formats. So there might be some video content, there might be some text, some images. It depends what the content's about for how we present it. But the main driver behind this is that we make this content engaging. The aesthetics of it are really nice to work through. But rather than one passive learning experience of perhaps watching one long big video, we break that up so it's more of an active learning experience. And it looks something like this. So you can actually see as this demo student has already completed the first 3 steps. It'll also remember where you're up to. So you can start this content, you know, on a Tuesday and think, well, now I've got to go to work. I'll pick up the next section the next day, and so on. So it's also flexible in how you can access this content. But I'll go into the next page here that we've this student hasn't accessed yet. And actually the step here that we're looking at is a piece of video. So I'll play this for a few seconds, but I will mute it. But there's a voiceover going over the back there. This is a very short video, actually. It's only 50 seconds or a minute, but normally they'd be a bit longer than that, obviously. The visuals really depend on what the content is about. So we might use some stock footage, we might use animation. Sometimes it'll be simple text on the screen. Again, we're trying to make this content as easy to access as possible. We don't want to overload the screen with too much text or too many visuals. So there's a balance to how we present this content. But essentially, students will work through the content. In the next section here, we've got a bit of an interactive graph. So I think students are asked to add their country and then run the visualization. And then I think there's a follow-up activity just after that. So you can see there are different types of activities, different ways to engage with this content. It's not all one format. And again, the idea being that this is an engaging mode of delivery. So that's a lecturecast. And if I go back to the module, go back to week 1, you can see this is just one resource for the week. So we have lecturecast, and in week 1 actually it normally just sort of introduces the topic for that week. We then have a reflective activity off the back of the lecturecast. So students also have access to what we call the passport module, and here we're asking students to go to that passport module to reflect on what they've just worked through there in that particular lecturecast. And that passport module runs alongside the whole program. So you have access to that throughout the duration of the program, whereas the modules will appear as you work through the program. The passport will be there throughout, and you'll use that to reflect and record your progress through the program. Each week we've also identified what the reading should be. So although you can access the entire reading list for the module in module resources, each week we also break that down. So in week 1, we not only give you the reading list, we also try and explain, you know, why this reading is important to the module. So there's some introductory text about, you know, why this reading is useful, and then we have essential reading and furthering. Obviously, you'd be expected to read around these subjects, but this is really a starting point. And if I was to click through here to reading lists, it'll then take me to the library reading pages where I can access these resources, again, using the same set of credentials. So we're trying to make this experience really smooth for students. If I go back to week 1, I think there might be one more activity, just to give you a quick example. There is, yeah, so there's a discussion forum here in week 1 as well. So if I click on the forum activity, actually this is split over 2 parts, it's a 2-week discussion. But you can see again, it's nice and clean and simple. We've got a discussion prompt. There are 2 different parts to it. And to add to contribute to the forum, I simply click add a new topic. I put in my subject. I put in my response here in the box below, and then click post to forum. once there are discussion topics in there, they'd be displayed on the same page, and you can then respond to your peers in the same discussion forum. And the lecturer also plays a part in this forum. So it's not just yourself and your fellow students. The lecturer will also guide these discussions and contribute. And this is where you really get the collaboration within the module and the different perspectives from students all over the world, really. So it's a really good type of activity that we have in the modules. If I then move on to week 2, I'm not going to go into each resource, but it'll just give you an idea that, week 2 has a different topic, some different introductory text. We have a different reading list. This week there's a seminar, so there'll be a brief here to students to prepare for the seminar. There's a reflection on that seminar. We continue the discussion forum from week 1. And actually in this week, we also have a case study to work through. So a slight variation on the type of activities that we're looking at in week 2, but there's consistency in how this is delivered to students. So hopefully you become quite familiar with this format. So hopefully that gives you an idea about what it's like to study one of our modules. What I'll do now is I'll stop sharing my screen, and I'll hand over to my colleague Joe, and Joe's going to talk a bit more about the admissions process. So over to you, Joe.
Great, thank you very much. So yes, I'm going to be talking through the admissions and the enrolment process for our online programs. So a really good place to start is to kind of take you through a step-by-step of what the whole enrolment process looks like. So starting at the very beginning, you show some interest in the program and you want to get in contact with the admissions team. There are a number of different ways that you can get in contact with us. So we have an email address, a telephone number, and a live chat system as well. So you're more than welcome to contact us on those means, and the admissions team will be happy to discuss anything with you. A really good way to inquire with us as well is to complete an inquiry form, which you can find on the program page on the online programs website. You would just complete your details and possibly put any questions on there as well. And then your details will come through to us and you'll be assigned a personal admissions advisor. We'll then contact you directly and discuss any questions or further information that you would like about a program. On to the next step, you have all the information that you need and you're ready to go ahead and make an application for the program. So you would apply online directly to the university. You would complete our free online application form, which again is found on our website. You would fill in your details again and attach the required documents as well. As it mentions there, there's no cost to apply. Our application process is completely free. Once we have the application from you and all of the required documents, your application would then be reviewed by a senior member of staff on the admissions team and the Director of Studies as well. And we aim to get an outcome on your application within 10 working days of you submitting those documents to us. Once your application has been approved, then we would conduct what is called a pre-enrollment review. This pre-enrollment review is just a very short 10-15 minute telephone conversation with your personal admissions advisor. And in that phone call, we'll just go through things like the student commitments and the next steps of the enrolment process. And we'll just use that time to make sure that you've got everything that you need for starting your program with us. Once we've completed that review together, you'll then receive your official offer letter from the university. So then it would just then be up to yourself to formally accept your offer and pay your deposit as well. And then you'll be all set to begin on your chosen intake with us. So in terms of entry requirements for the PGCAP program, as you can see here, we require applicants to have a degree equivalent to a UK bachelor's degree, and they must also have a teaching position in a higher education institution at Descriptor level 2, as Susan mentioned earlier in the webinar. Furthermore, our applicants must have reached a minimum requirement standard of English language, and we do require evidence of this as well. It's important to kind of say at this point, if you're ever unsure about the entry requirements or more where you fit in with these entry requirements, that's really what the admissions team is here for. We're more than happy to talk through any questions that you have and discuss the experience that you have as well against these entry requirements. So if you are ever unsure, do speak to your admissions advisor and we're more than happy to help with entry requirements. So in terms of tuition fees for the programme, the full tuition fee for the current academic year would be £6,000 Great British pounds. We do offer monthly payment plans to help spread the cost of your tuition. So that would simply just be 10 equal monthly instalments throughout the programme. It's interest free, so it would still be the same price of 6,000, whether you're paying upfront or monthly. And as it mentions at the bottom there, the fee is fully inclusive of all costs as well. So any material or any resources that you require from a programme, that is all included in your course fee. So you wouldn't be expected to self-fund any material. We cover that for you in your tuition fees. So a little bit more information about the payment methods. So for students who want to pay their fees upfront, you would be eligible for an extra 5% discount on your tuition fees as well. The tuition fees are paid easily through the university's online payment portal, Flywire. Makes it very easy for us and yourselves to track your payments with us. And also a short mention at the bottom there that we do have a 21-day money-back guarantee if you decide a program isn't quite right for yourself. So that begins on the start date, and any time from then until 21 days after that period, you're more than welcome to leave a program if it's not right for you, and you would be entitled to a full refund of your deposit as well. So if you are ready to go ahead and make an application, you can apply using that link on the screen, or you could simply go to our online programs webpage and you'll find a link to the application form on there quite easily. When you go ahead and make an application, you'll need to submit the following documents as detailed there. And when you are applying it, it's very important to try and submit as much of these documents as possible, just so we can really try and speed up the application process for you, especially around deadline time. So we'll just talk through these documents quite quickly so you have an idea of what is expected with an application. So simply the first one, we just need a photographic ID. So this could be a passport or a driver's license, photographed or scanned. We would require an up-to-date CV, copies of your educational certificates. So this would be the certificate and the transcripts as well. A personal statement, just a short personal statement, around 300 to 500 words. Very standard really, just detailing your experience, why you want to do this program and where you think the program will take you in the future. The letters of recommendation, as Susan talked about earlier, so for PGCAP students, it would be ideal to get these from someone that you directly report to at the institution that you're currently working at. And finally, as we talked about a couple of slides ago, we also require evidence of English language proficiency for international applicants. So IELTS and TOEFL would be the most commonly accepted ones, but we do accept other certificates as well. So as I mentioned earlier, the admissions team are, again, more than happy to talk through these documents with you, check those with you during the application process. If you're ever unsure or are struggling with some of those documents, we're really on hand to help you get those together for then submission a little bit further down the line. So if you do have any questions, you can contact us on the link detailed on the screen. Again, there's that link to apply as well. For the candidates who are wanting to start on the April intake, we do have an enrolment deadline on the 30th of March. And the enrolment deadline, all stages of the application process need to be completed. So that's all the stages which were detailed on my first slide. Everything from making an application to getting an offer letter and accepting all needs to be done by the 30th of March. So if you are wanting to start in April, we would really recommend applying and submitting all documents a really good few working days before the 30th of March, just so we can really try and get you through for the April intake. Once that deadline has been met, you'll be looking at starting your studies on the 6th of April. We do have future intakes as well, but the 6th of April would be our next one, and there are the deadlines to follow to start then.
That's great. Thank you for that.
Thank you,
Joe. So yeah, we'll go over to any questions. If anyone who's attending this afternoon has got any questions at this point, feel free to ask those either through the Q&A. There's a Q&A button that you'll see towards the bottom of your screen if you're on a computer. We've also got the chat facility as well. If there are any questions, feel free to drop those into the chat at this point as well. So we have got obviously Sue, Joe and Stephen here to answer any questions that you might have at this point. I'll just have a look back and see if we've had anything that's come through whilst we've been delivering the webinar. One question that we might have actually perhaps answered, Sue, during the course of the presentation was how many hours approximately a week would someone need to set aside in order to meet the commitments of the programme?
Okay, so thanks, Ben. It was 18 hours a week with 4 to 5 of those hours structured coursework, and the rest made up by self-directed study or workplace learning.
That's great, thank you, Sue. And in terms of, I suppose, people studying perhaps from different time zones, is that something that's been, I suppose, built into the programme and factored into, I suppose, how things have been set up? Could you maybe talk a little bit more about perhaps people studying from time zones, for example, outside of the UK? We also have a lot of international interest in this programme.
Okay, so when you meet with your tutor, one of the first things that the tutor will discuss with the whole group is what time suits people. So at the moment, we have people from 5 different time zones, and they all decided that 1 p.m. on a Tuesday is a good time for them to get together for any synchronous discussions. So it's a mutually agreed time by the tutor and the participants on a case-by-case basis.
Great, thank you. So, and obviously, I think, as you mentioned, Stephen, if you want to perhaps come back in at this point, but a lot of the resources, such as the seminars, are recorded, and there's lots of resources available, I suppose, in the virtual learning platform that, again, cater for those students who are studying across different time zones. Do you want to come back in, Stephen, and just perhaps touch on a couple of those things again?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thanks. I mean, the majority of materials can be accessed. They're asynchronous, so you can access them as you wish, really. It's just the live sessions, but they are all recorded. It's often not just time zone as well. You know, students have different commitments with their work-life balance and so on, so there's different things we need to consider. But we'd work with the lecturer to find mutually convenient time for those sessions. But the majority of resources can be accessed 24/7. You know.
That's great, thank you. And Sue, you did cover, I think, some of this in the webinar, in your presentation. I was wondering maybe if you could expand a little as to what assessment looks like on the programme for students.
Okay, so like in the first module, the assessment is a vlog, which is about your teaching philosophy. All of the assessments are authentic, so they should relate to basically what you're doing in your job in higher education. So in the second module, we have a professional conversation. So it's a discussion with the tutor about 5 questions about your teaching and learning. And we also have a design brief where you create an assessment and a rubric for the students in your class. For module 3, you will conduct a situational analysis of your own situation to enhance your own teaching and learning. And as a result of that, you will create an action plan, which will help you to be able to enhance your teaching and learning going forward. In the final module, there is an elevator pitch to help you enhance your career, and also a poster presentation. So you create a poster about how your career has progressed to date and your plans for future development. So really varied, really practical, really authentic assessments.
That's great, thank you, Sue. And again, I will just remind anybody to please ask any questions you might have at this point. We've got the chat facility here in Zoom, and also there's a Q&A button that you should see on your screen as well. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask those at this point, and I'll have a look and see if we've got anything that also came in earlier on. Another obviously key, I suppose, part about this course so is the fellowship aspect of things. I wondered if you could maybe just expand a little bit on what are the benefits of the fellowship for students.
Okay, so the benefit of fellowship is that it's professional recognition against professional standards. And many employers are looking to how you are accredited, what kind of qualifications you have to be able to give you a job. The fellowships are global, and there are more than 100,000 fellows across the world in all different countries. And becoming a fellow of the Higher Education Academy, you are welcomed into a community of practice where you can connect with other colleagues around the world. So there's quite a number of benefits from fellowship, the main being it's professional recognition for you against the professional standards framework.
That's great, thank you, Sue. We've got a question that's come in from Mark. It would be best for you to have a look at this question, Sue, or for Joe perhaps. Mark's a careers advisor and says, I don't tend to do an assessment of student work. Would this be an issue? I suppose perhaps a question around eligibility for the programme itself.
That's an interesting one, Mark. You would have to, the fellowships can be applied in a range of different contexts, but assessing and giving feedback to students would be something that you would need to do. So it would be like if you were supervising doctoral students, you probably wouldn't also set assessments, but you are assessing their work and you are giving them feedback. So I think that it would need to be a more personal conversation with you, with the recruitment team, to be able to go into this further.
Yeah, would you agree with that, Joe? I suppose, Mark, we can put you obviously in touch with an admissions advisor. If you're not already speaking to somebody in the admissions team, we'll be able to pick that conversation up with you. Is that okay, Joe? Is that something you perhaps be able to pick up after this session with Mark's question, perhaps directly?
Before Joe responds, I think the ultimate source for responding to this question is to go to the professional standards framework that is available on request from the admissions team or from the Advance HE website, and then you can read for yourself the types of things that are required. Okay, Joe, I'll let you have a go now.
No worries, I think you said it perfectly, yeah. So kind of looking at the descriptor, seeing where you fall within that, and if you're still unsure kind of where your role fits into that, the admissions team are happy to look at you know, your whole experience in your current role and see where that fits into the entry requirement. So do send us an inquiry, and anyone from the admissions team will be able to assist you with that.
Can I just add on to that as well? On the Advance HE website, and this is part of something that you would do in the induction, there is a fellowship category tool. So if you answer the questions on the fellowship category tool, it lets you know what type of fellowship that would be most suitable for you. So that's another way of being able to answer this question.
That's great, thank you, Sue. So again, I would just say we've got a few minutes remaining still. If anyone has got any questions, to feel free to put those into the chat or the Q&A at this point. I'll just give another couple of minutes for any more questions to come through. Another question, I think you might have perhaps covered this actually, Joe. Apologies if you did, because we had a question that came in again a little bit earlier. Was asked if students need to purchase any additional materials in order to study this programme. I suppose things like perhaps textbooks, etc. So is there any sort of need for additional materials, or do we provide everything that students will need as part of the fees and as part of the programme?
Yeah, so you wouldn't be expected to self-fund any materials or anything like that. Any kind of reading lists, materials, and we provide that for you, and that's what's included in your tuition fees.
That's great, thank you. I'll just see if any more questions come in at all. And of course, if anyone does have any questions after the webinar, on the screen there you can see the URL for the contact page on our website. If you do go to our website, you'll see on there we've got prominently a live chat feature on there. We've got the email address and telephone number, as well as a contact form on that contact page. So if you do go away after this session and find that you've got questions that you have, please do get in touch with us through the website, and our team will be happy to answer any of those at any point. I can't see any more questions coming in, so I'll perhaps at this point say thank you to all of the presenters this afternoon. A recording of this webinar will be made available to everybody who registered for this event, so that'll be coming out to you in the next few days. And like I say, if you have got any questions, please feel free to go to our website and ask those questions to our team there. There's perhaps just one more question that's coming actually through the Q&A from Lola. I'll have a look at that and just see what that is. And yes, you're welcome, from Lola. Thank you. I'd like to know if there's a kind of delineation in awarding the degree status, e.g. associate fellowship of fellowship status. I don't know if you can see that question as well, so it's just come through the Q&A.
And so there's two different things here. The degree status. So the University of Liverpool awards the degree status, which is the Postgraduate Certificate Academic Practice. This is the first 60 credits that could go on to a postgraduate diploma or a master's in academic practice. Okay, so that's the degree part. The fellowship status, because we are accredited with Advanced HE for this program, when you finish this PGCAP, you automatically get a fellowship of the Higher Education Academy without any further applications or whatever. Everything is already aligned and included. So you do the assessments in the PGCAP, pass the assessments, and you're automatically awarded a fellowship of the Higher Education Academy on the conclusion or your graduation of this program. We do not award associate fellowship on this program. If you were seeking associate fellowship and you're not a University of Liverpool staff member, we would recommend you apply directly through Advanced HE for that. I hope that answers the question.
That's great. Thank you for that, Sue. Just give another perhaps 30 seconds or so if any more questions come in. But as I was just saying, I suppose before, the webinar is recorded, so I'll be sharing that recording with everyone who registered in the next few days. There will be a chance to watch this back as well. If you have got any questions that you go away and think about, please come to the website. We've got the telephone number on there, the live chat, the contact form. The team would be happy to follow up with any questions that you might have about the programme. Obviously, the next start date for the programme, as you can see on the screen, is the 6th of April. Applications obviously are open for that intake right now. We're accepting those this month. We have got intakes as well later on in the year if that's a bit too soon for anybody. So thank you very much for your time to all the people attending today, all of the presenters, and I'll finish the session there, and I hope that you all enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Thank you everybody, and bye for now.